start with the news with Israel. 31 killed in Israeli attack on Gaza school housing displaced Palestinians. At least 31 Palestinians, including children, were killed and many others injured on Saturday in an Israeli attack targeting a field hospital in a school housing displaced people in the central Gaza Strip, Palestinian sources said. The death toll from Israel's attack on a field hospital inside a school housing displaced people in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza has risen to 31. The Gaza government media office spokesman Ismail al-Tawata told Anadolu Agency of Turkey. Meanwhile, the Israeli army stated that its fighter jets attacked the Khadija school in the central Gaza Strip, claiming to target Hamas members. There was no immediate comment from the Palestinian group Hamas on the Israeli claims. Earlier, the Gaza government media office said that the Israeli occupation army committed a new massacre a short while ago by bombing a field hospital set up inside Khadija school in Deir al-Balah in the central governorate. The occupation bombed the hospital with 3 missiles from fighter jets, which led to the killing of 18 people and dozens of injuries, it added. Medical sources told Turkish Anadolu Agency that the Israeli army bombed the school in an area that was classified as a humanitarian safe zone in Deir al-Balah. In a related news, Israel orders Khan Yunis residents to evacuate towards al-Mawasi in southern Gaza. The Israeli army on Saturday ordered Khan Yunis residents to evacuate and head towards al-Mawasi in the southern Gaza Strip, an area designated as a safe zone but frequently attacked. In a statement, the army said remaining in this area has become dangerous due to rocket fire from southern area of Khan Yunis. The early warning to civilians is being made in order to mitigate harm to the civilian population and keep civilians away from areas of combat, it added. On July 13th, the Israeli army targeted camps of the displaced in al-Mawasi, killing more than 90 Palestinians and injuring nearly 300 others, according to Palestinian official sources. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed at the time that the airstrike targeted Mohammed Deif, the commander-in-chief of Hamas's Al-Qassam brigades, and his deputy. Israel has killed more than 39,000 Palestinians since an October 7th cross-border attack by Hamas. The actions have triggered a humanitarian disaster and an ongoing trial over alleged genocide at the International Court of Justice. And moving on to Philippines, death toll in Philippines climbs to 34 as Typhoon Gaimi batters region. The death toll from landslides and floods triggered from Typhoon Gaimi in the Philippines has risen to 34, while several people are still missing in different regions, the police said. 12 victims died in the region Calabarzon, 11 in the Metro Manila, 9 Central Luzon, and 2 in the Bicol area. 22 people passed away from drowning, 5 got electrocuted, 6 were buried by landslides, and 1 was hit by a fallen tree. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. had earlier ordered authorities to speed up efforts in delivering food and other aid to isolated rural villages. In Taiwan, at least 8 people were killed, more than 800 injured, and 1 person was missing, the Central Emergency Operations Center said. Many more got displaced. The highest number of injuries, 259, were reported in the port city of Kaohsiung, followed by 125 in Tainan and 120 in Taichung. And earlier, Defense Ministry statement said Typhoon Gaimi moved out of the Taiwan Strait, but residents should remain cautious of wind and rain. The typhoon made landfall in China after wreaking havoc in Taiwan and the Philippines. More than 150,000 people living in the southeastern province of Fujian were relocated to safer areas. China activated its highest tier disaster warning, with President Xi Jinping chairing a meeting on flood control and disaster relief plans, statement was said. The finance ministry allocated what equals to $9.25 million of fund to support the urgent restoration of roads damaged by the floods. And the news will continue shortly after this break.
continues on the English language broadcast of the Voice of Turkey.
Moving on to Central America, Mexican Army reinforces security in state of Sinaloa following arrests of cartel leaders in U.S. The Mexican National Defense Ministry deployed 200 elite soldiers Friday to the northwestern state of Sinaloa to strengthen security following the arrest of the notorious leader of the Sinaloa cartel, Ismael Zambada, in the U.S. Media reports said the troops were deployed from Mexico's Special Forces Corps that are designed to deal with national security threats, anti-terrorism, and hostage rescue tasks. The deployment follows the capture of Zambada and the son of his former colleague, Joaquin Chapo Guzman, in the U.S. state of Texas. Criminal groups, especially the Sinaloa cartel, have responded in the past with violence after the arrest of their prominent leaders, unleashing attacks against the population. The Sinaloa cartel launched attacks following the arrest of Ovidio Guzman, another one of Chapo's sons and the cartel leader, that led to 15 deaths and the release of Ovidio, which was ordered by Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador to prevent further violence. In January 2023, Ovidio was again arrested and the cartel responded with shootings, car burnings and roadblocks, as well as fighting the military and police, resulting in 35 fatalities. This time, however, Ovidio was extradited to the U.S., where he remains imprisoned. Zambada faces multiple criminal charges involving organized crime, money laundering, and drug trafficking. The Sinaloa cartel is accused by the U.S. of being the leading supplier of fentanyl, which kills 100,000 Americans annually. Zambada reportedly pleaded non-guilty to the charges in a U.S. federal court and will have his second hearing on July 31st. And moving on, G20 agreed to make sure super rich effectively taxed. Greater efforts should be made to ensure full compliance with domestic tax obligations, says the group. The G20 said Friday that the group agreed on working to make super rich individuals around the world effectively taxed, but stopped short on elaborating the methods. The group said it is important for all taxpayers, including ultra-high net worth individuals, to contribute their fair share in taxes. Aggressive tax avoidance or tax evasion of ultra-high net worth individuals can undermine the fairness of tax systems, which comes along with a reduced effectiveness of progressive taxation, according to a G20 ministerial declaration on international tax cooperation. No one should be able to evade taxation, including by circumventing transparency standards. Therefore, greater efforts should be made to ensure full compliance with domestic tax obligations, it added. Despite the consensus on taxing the super rich, mechanisms of achieving the goal remain vague. Each jurisdiction should work autonomously or, if necessary, through capacity-building initiatives to improve the effectiveness of revenue collection for taxes which already today could be levied based on domestic law, said the group. Cooperation could involve exchanging best practices, encouraging debates around tax principles, and devising anti-avoidance mechanisms, including addressing potentially harmful tax practices, it added. Member countries said they will continue to discuss the issues in the G20 and other relevant forums, counting on the technical input of relevant international organizations, academia, and experts. And finally, the sports news, and the topic is the Olympics this week, of course. And the first news is Algerian athletes honor victims of 1961 brutality at Paris Olympics ceremony. Algerian athletes honored the memory of victims of a 1961 police crackdown during the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics on Friday. The athletes brought red roses on their boats as they paraded for the event, and then tossed them into the river to honor victims of the brutality on Algerian protesters in Paris. Many protesters were killed and arrested as they demonstrated on October 17, 1961, to support independence from France, then Algeria's colonial ruler. Some were also thrown in the same river by the police. On October 5, 1961, a curfew was imposed on Algerians living in Paris and its surroundings. against the restrictions and in support for independence, approximately 30,000 Algerians organized a peaceful demonstration on October 17, 1961. The protesters, however, faced a brutal crackdown by the police under the orders of then Paris Police Chief Maurice Papon. While the exact number of deaths remain officially unconfirmed, witnesses and independent sources say more than 300 Algerians were killed, many shot by French police. Witnesses said some demonstrators were also killed within the premises of police headquarters or at metro stations. In 1998, France acknowledged the death of 40 individuals but labeled the massacre as a state crime. On March 28, the French National Assembly approved a resolution condemning the mass killing. The resolution noted the Algerian families protesting the curfew imposed only on Algerian Muslim French were met with severe and deadly force by the police under the command of Papon. And finally, Last Supper parody at Paris Olympics sparks condemnation by Catholics. A parody of the Last Supper during Friday's opening ceremony of the 2024 Paris Olympics sparked a backlash, including from Bishop Robert Barron of Minnesota. Drag queens parodied Leonardo da Vinci's rendition of the Last Supper, Jesus Christ's final meal with his disciples. In a video post on X, Barron said the act was emblematic of a deeply secularist postmodern society that identifies Christianity as its enemy. Drawing from his personal affection for Paris, where he studied for 3 years, Barron criticized France for the gross faith. He questioned why France, which has sent Catholic missionaries all over the world and whose culture of honoring the individual and of human rights and freedom is grounded very much in Christianity, chose to mock the Christian faith. He urged Christians and Catholics not to be passive, but to make their voices heard. And that was the news in English on the English language transmission of the Voice of Turkey.